it's kind of witch doctory in a way because it's not absolute, and there's some guesswork involved. But if you find the right person and if you get the right amount of advice, the question should be something like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Are you dealing with any aches and pains? Do you have any specific injuries? Have you been to a doctor or a PT or a chiropractor? And then you take that information and watch you actually move. And then that takes the shoe wall from, 100 down to hopefully, 1 or 2 great shoes.
Welcome to the LubDub Show, brought to you by the Providence Heart to Start program and the Oregon Brewery Running Series. The LubDub is a weekly podcast and interactive video show where we talk to experts about all things running and walking. And we also get to hear from some Heart to Start program champions who are going to provide motivation, inspiration, and a whole lot more as we all embark on this 12-week journey and enter into 2021 as a community united in becoming our best, healthiest selves. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Nathan Freeburg. I am the co-founder of the Oregon Brewery Running Series. And since 2016, we have been hosting untimed, family-friendly 5K walking and running events that start and end at great breweries all over Oregon and Southwest Washington. We have pivoted into virtual events during the pandemic, which is why I am here tonight with you. And I'm so excited about this partnership that we have with the Providence Heart to Start program. So this is week 2 of the LubDub Show. Be sure and go back and listen to last week's episode where we talked with Dr. Jamie Beckerman, who is the founder of the program, as well as Heidi Davis, who is the manager of the Providence Community Teaching Kitchen. They are our nonprofit partner for the Goal event, which we are hosting in February, which is kind of what this whole 12 weeks is about, is you work really, really hard as you can, to nail that key 5K or 10K. This week, tonight, I am excited to be joined by Dr. Dr Morse, who is a champion for our Heart to Start program in Seaside, the Seaside group. He's going to stop by and say hello. And then Dave Harkin, who's a co-owner of Portland Running Company, is here. And he is going to share some great advice on proper footwear, on running gear, and all kinds of other stuff. But before we get there, we have a few quick announcements and some updates from our program manager and really the person who is just keeping all of these moving parts together, Tracy Rose. Tracy, how are you today? I hope that you are on the finish line there and just feeling like a rock star.
I'm doing good. Thank you, Nathan. It's exciting. I love that we're in week 2. Week 1 was amazing. And we just have to give a huge shout out to everyone that's been participating and engaged. We know it's hard being distanced, and we want to support you the best you can. But what's so amazing is that everyone has stepped in and supported each other, and you don't know each other, most of you. And so it's been really special to watch all of the interactions in the various groups and platforms that we have to try and connect with everyone somewhere. So thank you so much for that. I will share that we've doubled our community since last week, or more than doubled. So we're just shy of 1,700 participants this year, which is amazing. And as everyone knows, we open this up to anyone and everyone that wants to participate, though it's our typical season for Portland. And we're excited to have season 9 happening, but it's definitely really neat to see how many more new friends that we have. 76% of the people on here, Nathan, are first timers. And so I think that's what kind of brings the joy to us, that we get to introduce the program and the community to so many new people and new faces across 17 states. So thank you for that. I will share also, we appreciate all the sneaker selfies that came in. That was quite amazing and super fun to see everyone. Our photo of the week is another engagement that we have with everyone. So this week's is a little unique. It's our collegiate fan fun week. So essentially what we've normally done at the track is everyone comes dressed up in their favorites, their alma mater, or their favorite college. And you're just like this fanatic fan. And we've had very non-scientific ways of choosing winners. This year, it's going to last all week. Here in Oregon, we have a very long time rivalry with Oregon State and the Oregon Ducks. And that football game happens this weekend. And so it's kind of our time to kind of pick this rivalry week, but also just open it up to collegiate fans. So don your attire, take your picture. I don't care how fun or crazy it is. That's what makes this super fun. We'll get those shared. What is key about this week is everyone that submits a photo, either via email or on the group, is entered to win a goal event registration. So we will be able to give one of those out next week when we draw a winner. So stay tuned for more information on that. And we'll touch base on some more of these like technical items and things at the end, but I'll turn it back to you, Nathan.
Tracy, thank you so much. When you sent me those numbers earlier, I'm just blown away by the number of people who have committed to doing this for these 12 weeks. And I'm just really excited to be a part of it. 17 states, I don't know if you mentioned, but Canada is also involved. We've also been emailing with someone from Alaska who is going to be doing some skiing as part of hers because it's Alaska and it's wintertime. And so we thought that would be a great, a great way to be active. I would love to introduce you to Dr. Morse, who is the Heart to Start champion out in Seaside, or as he's better known as P37106. Dr. Morse, I assume that is your badge number or just your computer number there.
My ID number for Zoom that they have for that we use for virtual visits with patients. So I'm just kind of noticing that that's how that came up, and I'm not really sure how to fix that. But in any case, yes.
Well, that's okay. I was reading on your bio that you love doing these virtual visits, so maybe we can figure that out for you. So are you in Seaside right now? I know you're at the office. Are you at the coast as we speak?
I'm actually in Astoria. So
Astoria, okay.
I see patients in both Astoria, Seaside, and Ilwaco, Washington. And coming up on 10 years out here at the coast, and started off with a very small operation, and now it's another doctor, a mid-level provider, 3 locations, and it's been an interesting 10 years for me here. And this program that Jamie developed has really become a nice piece of our prevention and wellness strategy, and and the thing is, not only for patients, I think for me, it's been really an interesting thing, because when I was young, I was a competitive runner, and for various reasons, you find reasons not to do things, and then once you're doing them again, you go, why did I stop doing this? I really like this. It really makes me feel good. So I'm excited both personally and professionally to be involved in this. So what I wanted to add, once these things get going, everybody needs a little bit of motivation. And I had, a very unique coach when I was in high school. And I think in some ways, his level of motivation was what made me, want to be a better runner. And then a lot of the things that I applied to running, I've applied to the rest of my life without really knowing it. But one of his favorite quotes was, "The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all." And what he used to boil this down to is that there's going to be adversity. There's going to be days that you don't really feel like running. There's going to be days that you might have an injury. There's going to be other things that happen to you in your life. And what you need to do, or what this quote from, the Bible asks us to do, is to push on. And that if you push on, things have a way of working out. And so he sometimes would boil it down to, the race is not to the swift, but just keep running, and things will work out in your favor more often than not. And I dug this one out of my archive. And I think it still, makes me feel like I want to each day just try to be a little bit better and do a little bit more, whatever that looks like, and mostly try to be back out there doing things and moving, walking, running. And it doesn't matter how fast you go, doesn't matter how you go about it. What matters is getting out there and doing it, making the effort.
I love that. I think that's such a good, helpful reminder too, as we're, again, starting on this 12-week journey that, if you get overwhelmed or feel like, wow, I can't do all of this, it's not about looking at the whole thing. It's just focusing on, all right, just get out there today and do the workout today or do whatever, is scheduled, and just continually to be active. So I think that's such a helpful reminder to all of us, regardless of where we're at on our journey. Dr. Morse, I'm curious. I know, you're at work there. You're a cardiologist. I was reading your bio. You have like 150 different areas of specialty. It's very impressive. But I'm curious, and I think we'd all be interested to know, like, what do you do when you're not at the hospital, when you take off the stethoscope, when you're not telling people to stop eating bacon-wrapped donuts and eat more oatmeal? Like, what do you do in your spare time for fun, to be active? Just give us a little sneak peek behind the profession there.
Well, one of the things I've, lived in a few different areas. I actually grew up in upstate New York and was in the military at one point. And we went to, after I got out of the military, and lived in Las Vegas. And then I was looking for something other than, what I had. And I don't want to go into all the gritty details of why I wanted to not be in Las Vegas anymore. Some of it had to do with, the heat and the climate. And so I got this offer to come up here to look around at this opportunity they were considering here in Astoria. And my initial response was just how beautiful it was. When I got here, I was literally flabbergasted by how beautiful it was, just inherent natural beauty, the ocean, the river, the beaches, the green. And it just appealed to me so much that that's a lot of the reason why I'm here. And so it's a very easy place to be outside here. And most opportunities, if I don't have something to do, is to go to the beach, to get out. And, there's some good hiking trails in the area. I've had an injury where I broke my collarbone, so I haven't been on my bike in about 6 months now, but there's a lot of good biking trails. And so part of what makes this a great place to work is it's a great place to live. And we actually, as we've tried to recruit, are still understaffed medical staff in Seaside. It's to convince people of how great it is to live here. And if they've got any interest about being outside at all, you just can't find a more beautiful place to live and work.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that would be very difficult to convince people of, but I suppose there's maybe a little bit more to it, huh?
Be surprised.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your insight and your wisdom, and just thanks for being a champion with this program. Hopefully we'll see you. Hopefully I don't see you for any medical reasons, but hopefully we'll see you in the future out there. Yeah, exactly. Out there when we're running. So Thank you very much, Dr. Morse. Appreciate it. Next, I would like to introduce to you someone who, I got to be honest, it's going to be difficult for us to stay within the parameters of this conversation. Dave Harkin is the co-owner of Portland Running Company. And Dave and Dave's one of those guys who you maybe ask a question to, or you sit down to chat with, and you think it's going to be brief, and it's not. And it's not because he's long-winded. It's just because you just start talking and time evaporates, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, it's Tuesday morning. What happened? But Dave, hello, how are you?
Hello, Nathan. Thanks for the great intro. Fine as long-winded, but you beat me to it. What a great opportunity. Hi, Tracy, and hi to everybody in the program. I don't do a lot of Zoom calls, so I fully expected to see 1,700 little tiny dots on my screen. So I was pleasantly surprised to see some of you had actually turned your cameras off. It's great. But yeah, I am Dave Harkin. I'm so happy to be here. We can discuss anything you want to. So I'm sure Nathan will do this, but we encourage you to chime in anytime you want to ask a specific question. But I would love to get started and impart whatever knowledge I can to all of you folks as it relates to your goals. We're very excited.
Yeah. Well, no one is more excited than me, Dave, because you're the expert. You're kind of my go-to guy. And for everyone watching this live, if you do want to add a question in the chat, we're going to have a little Q&A with Dave at the end of this. He may answer your questions. But Dave, the number one question I get from people, I've been a runner for virtually my whole life. When I'm around people who are new to running, getting into running, they always want to know, what shoe should I buy? And I don't know what answer you give them. I always give them the same answer. I say, buy the Pegasus. This is the 37. It's the best. No, I'm kidding. Don't buy the Pegasus. I always say that's a personal decision between you and your feet, which I know isn't the most helpful answer. So Dave, in your expert opinion, how do you guide someone when they need new shoes and they say, hey, I need shoes, what should I buy?
Well, what a great question. So many of you have seen people that you might define as like a really awesome looking runner or walker, and you look down at their feet and you think, well, I'm just going to get that shoe because it looks awesome. But yeah, Nathan, you're right. The first and most perfect way to do it is to come in person. And I know that's difficult now. So we came up with a few opportunities, but what we do in person, I'll describe to you so you can imagine what you might be able to do if you don't have the resources to go visit either us in Portland or somewhere across the country. And that is, we ask you some really basic questions. If you walked in and you said, I started a walking program and I'm thinking about getting some new shoes, I would say, how does your body feel? And I would start with your feet because that's our kind of area of expertise, but we work our way all the way up the chain to the neck. And we just do a quick sort of, how are you feeling? Like, what is this challenge like for you? Are your knees okay? Are your arches okay? How do your toes feel? How do your hips feel? And usually people will say, oh, I'm great. And then a couple minutes later, they divulge that they've been in a car accident and have compressed vertebrae and broke their knee horse riding when they were 12 or something. And so, you kind of have to take all that into account. And what we do when we talk about shoes is we kind of break it down into categories. The first one is very easy. It's function. And so we watch you walk or we watch you run, and we take a quick assessment of your foot strike and your kind of physical behaviors when you move. And so a lot of you are probably just getting comfortable with that. I mean, it sounded like there's a lot of beginners. And so when you go out the door, you kind of don't know what it should feel like. You don't know if it should be this painful or this easy, or, if you're tripping on yourself or you have a hard time running in a straight line. These are all things that we look at when we're trying to figure out the best shoe for you. So function is very simply, we match up shoes with what your feet do. And I can go into great depth with this, but I'll tell you this. The shoe that Nathan held up is one type of shoe, and there are a bunch of them. There used to be a spectrum of maybe 1, 2, and 3 types of shoes, and now there's just 100 different shoes. And there's a lot of different feet. There's a lot of different widths. So what we do very first, we try to ascertain whether or not you're doing some things that might need some help from the shoes. I'll give you some quick examples, and then we can move on. I've got them behind me. This shoe. The shoe is the shoe that Kipchoge wore to run under 2 hours in the marathon. Most of us do not need this shoe, except for Nathan maybe. But most of us, we're not looking for this shoe. The problem with the shoe is it doesn't offer any real significant support. It takes the efficiency of the best runner and it puts some stuff under his feet to make him go just a little bit more efficiently. But he doesn't need any extra help. But most people like me and a lot of you, we need more support. We need more base under our feet. So I don't know if you can see this. You tell me if you can, but these are the same size shoe. And maybe I should do that for effect. This one is a more substantial shoe, and it's designed to help control what we call overpronation. It's designed to help get you from the moment of impact through the middle part of your gait, which is called the mid-stance, to the time when you propel to go forward. And whether you're walking or running, it does not matter. If you're doing it with a purpose, this is really the first thing we have to do. So function is number one. Fit is number two. Believe me, so many people come in and they're like, yeah, I'm fine with shoes, but I just maybe need a water bottle. And I look down, I'm like, what size shoe do you wear? And, they're wearing the same size they wore like in 7th grade. You have to take an assessment of your foot size. It changes with age. It changes with activity. It changes with heat. It changes with elevation. And you need to leave yourself some room up front. Your toes need to be able to kind of do this up front, and they need to be secure in the back. A lot of people come in and say, I've heard that I need to buy my running shoe a size bigger than my dress shoe. Well, that's kind of true. I mean, if you only have dress shoes, you've only ever bought an 8.5B dress shoe, then you're probably going to be a 9 or 9.5, but it's not absolute. And so the best way to do that is to know you need some room for length of your toes, for the width across what we call the metatarsal heads. That would be like the joints of your toe. You need to have a secure heel. You need to have enough room in your instep to tie those laces so they're straight up and down. They're not splayed out or like open and you're like doing this at the very end with your laces. And so number 1, function. Number 2 is fit. Those are the 2 most essential things. Now, I get it. You can't do it in person. So there are a few things. If you're just not able to get into a running or walking store to get an evaluation, I would highly suggest you go to what I would deem to be the experts at Portland Running Company website. We have a place where you can chat. You can just hit it and say like, hey, I'm new to walking. And then we can take it from there. We can ask you some great questions. You can get very individual about your needs. We can even share some pictures and some video if we need to get an idea of your gait and your foot shape. And that's it. And then you have to get them and get out and walk and run and see how they feel. So number 3 on that is feel. How do they feel in your feet? I mean, if they feel cranky, if they feel stiff, if they feel like they have a really high peak in the arch, or they have a lump under the forefoot, if the laces are binding, anything like that, you need to get away from it. A lot of people look for cushion, and I use the metaphor often. If you go to a bed and breakfast, a really old one that's charming, and you get into that nice, charming bed, the mattress is like 80 years old, and it feels so great when you get in, so soft. And then eventually, when you wake up and you're contorted and you can't move your arm because you've been shoved into this ultra soft, cushiony thing, you realize that's maybe not the best thing for your back. The same thing is true for your feet. Super soft does not mean super good. It needs to be the right combination of stability and cushion, and it needs to fit your foot properly, and needs to function perfectly. So if you're taking notes, I don't think you are. Hopefully you're not. You're knitting or you're doing projects or whatever, but you can just remember this. Function is number 1. You got to figure out what you're doing. Fit is number 2, but I think I said it number 3, but fit is number 2. Most people wear their shoes too short, and a lot of things happen when you wear your shoes too short. Tingling of the toes. That's the precursor to a thing we call neuropathy. We got to be careful with that. Shoes that don't function properly might lead to sore arches or sore heels. And the last thing is, so fit, feel, function. The last thing is you want to have fun. Get some shoes on and get out there. Your shoes should not be the thing that you're thinking about, so get out there, find something you think looks great. We can do both. We can make it perfect for you and also find one that you think looks good. I'm going to stop talking because I'm being quite long-winded. Nathan, do you want to interject?
It's okay. It's okay. So Dave, running versus walking, do you need a different type of shoe for those different activities?
What a great question. We say no. Usually what I ask people when they tell me what they're doing is I ask them if they're going from A to B with a purpose. So if you came in as a walker and I'd say, well, are you walking around the mall, or are you walking in the grocery store, or are you actually walking, like fitness walking, like you are all doing now? You're moving from A to B with a purpose. And so the function and the feel and the fit aspects of that are not different between runners and walkers. The gait changes a little bit. So if you're thinking I'm walking now and I might run a little bit later, or you run walk, sometimes you can have some different tendencies. And so sometimes that can dictate what shoe you choose, especially if you're walking fast. So if you're thinking I'm on a speed walk or race walk, I'm going to get up on it, then sometimes I like the thumbs up, Aaron. Sometimes you need to take a look at the shoe to make sure that it functions perfectly for you. And one aspect of that is something we call the drop of the shoe. It's the offset between the front and the back. Shoes used to be 12 millimeters taller in the back than the front. So like 24 millimeters and 12. So it's kind of jacked up in the back. And if you've seen anything about that, a lot of shoes have changed in rebuttal to that. But walking, oftentimes you do a little bit better with lower offsets, lower drop. And so it's in millimeters. So if you want to know this, 0 millimeters is what it sounds like, 0. It's a great concept. It's not the perfect concept for most people. 4 millimeters is the next jumping point, and 4 to 8 millimeters is really good for walking. It really is. There's a lot of great shoes in that realm. That doesn't mean you have to not buy something in that realm, but that's There's a lot of shoes from a lot of companies. And then 12 millimeters or 13 millimeters is about the max. So if you're like buying a Balenciaga and it's like a 90 millimeters taller on the back and the front, you probably shouldn't do that. It's also $1,000. And so, yeah, so 0 to about 10 millimeters. And the sweet spot, I would say 4 to 10 millimeters is where a lot of shoes are. And besides that, there's not a lot of differences. We really watch with the ultimate respect that what you're doing is you're moving to and fro with a purpose and with a gait. And we're going to watch your gait, whether you're walking or running. And if you're going to do both, and we're actually able to watch you, we'll watch you do both, and we'll try to find a good compromise.
I have a few other Q&A here. Someone asked a question about, like, is there a good shoe for plantar fasciitis? And I'm going to maybe expand that. Do you recommend certain shoes for different, like, running injuries, or does that just kind of all go back to the fit, feel, and function categories?
If you already have shoes in your closet and you want to test your shoes, plantar fasciitis, like most injuries, I mean, it can come from a variety of things. If you walk in and say you have a sore heel, and then also tell me that you've been walking or running more, and that when you get up in the morning it hurts, then I would say probably related to the function of your shoe. But if you disclose that you went clam digging, for 3 hours and your heel hurts, then that's a different kind of thing. It can still aggravate your plantar fascia. So if you don't know this is in the arch of your foot, if I had a foot model, I would hold it up, but pretend this is my toes. The arch of your foot has a tendon that runs right along the big toe side and wraps into the heel. And so sometimes that can hurt, in the arch, it can hurt in your heel. It can feel like a bruised heel. And there are types of shoes that help with that. Here's a good one. This shoe that I have is very flexible in a way that's maybe not great for your plantar fascia. I can twist it like this. You see what I'm doing? Like a towel. And if you wanted to test a shoe, if you're having problems with your shoes, or you have a new shoe and you're not sure about it, give it a little towel ring twist. You're looking for torsional rigidity. If it's hyperflexible and you're also having problems, that could be the problem. There's a lot of shoes that have a lot more rigidity than this one that could help with your plantar fascia. The other is a big category of shoes we call stability shoes. They introduce pieces on the shoe that have added support. If you look down at your shoe on the arch side of your shoe, you might see a darker color or a piece of plastic right here, or on the bottom a piece of plastic here. Those are added to help with, usually with plantar fasciitis, but they help with the foot strike. So not specifically one injury, but they do help with guiding your foot through the sort of slings and arrows of moving forward. So in answer, Nathan, to your question, not to be specific about plantar fasciitis, we can talk a lot about different injuries. That's just the one that seems to go undiagnosed, and then people come in and they've read about it. There are shoes specifically made for particular injuries, but as we draw those lines from the feet, we're looking for knee angles and hip angles as well. So usually adding a broader base, a little more rigidity, and sometimes adding more arch can help stabilize the kind of the whole chain, the cycle from your feet all the way up to your shoulders and especially up to your hips. And that can reduce injuries like IT band syndrome, which is the outside of your leg. It attaches to your knee, and a lot of people will reference runner's knee. That's one of the things that happens to a lot of people. If you ever get sore in your glutes when you're driving, if you have some compression on your piriformis, which is kind of like the top part of your glutes, that can be also remedied by getting the right shoe. So there is really a lot of things you can do. It's kind of witch doctory in a way, because it's not absolute, and there's some guesswork involved. But if you find the right person and if you get the right amount of advice, the question should be something like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Are you dealing with any aches and pains? Do you have any specific injuries? Have you been to a doctor or a PT or a chiropractor? And then take that information and watch you actually move. And then that takes the shoe wall from, 100 down to hopefully, 1 or 2 great shoes.
That's good advice, Dave. Appreciate that. Another question here from Aaron. Yeah. Another question here from Aaron. How much does it matter when picking out a new shoe? How much does it matter if you're a heel striker versus a toe striker? It
matters. How much is also related to how you feel when you're doing it. Heel striking is interesting because it reduces the amount of vertical oscillation. If you're heel striking, generally speaking, you're also running in a flatter plane to the ground. And so there's some merit to that, especially in old school thinking about jogging. It's sort of less impact. But in the newer thought process, the less time you're on the ground, the better. And so if you strike more towards your toes, to what we call a midfoot strike, you're going to have a few less anomalies with what your foot does on the ground. It requires some strength. It's not something you would do naturally. Most people, unless you played like a field sport or you have some sort of inherent athleticism, you're not going to run on your midfoot or forefoot until you practice it a little bit. Sometimes lower offsets, lower drops that we mentioned before, will encourage more of a midfoot strike. They'll kind of get you up to that area. If you watch somebody from the side walking or running, and running more specifically, because walking, you're definitely going to strike on your heel. That's just that's a thing you do. But with running, if you watch somebody from the side, you can get a lot of information by where their body is positioned in terms of if they're running past you. If they're tilted from vertical, if they're tilted back at all, you're going to see more heel striking. If they're leaned forward even just a little bit, you're going to see more midfoot striking. And usually, also, not to make it about speed, but usually faster runners will have a more natural midfoot strike. You might have to take smaller steps if you start doing it to train yourself, which will slow you down, but should decrease your chance of injury. It's an interesting question here, and I like it. And I would think just if I said wholesale, the best runners in the world, they run midfoot. They're on their midfoot, and so it would be better, I guess, if you were looking at how to go faster or farther. But in terms of health, it's not necessarily better for everybody.
So Dave, here's something that I've really, especially since moving to Portland, I've had a pair of Gore-Tex shoes. I've had a pair of like the Nike's waterproof shield shoes. Nothing keeps my feet dry when I'm running in the rain. Have you found anything that will keep your feet dry when you're running, or is it just inevitable that as Pacific Northwest runners, or actually wherever you are in the in the country, we all deal with rain, and I think snow is a different topic for a different day. Anything we can do to keep our feet dry besides running in plastic bags?
Yeah, well, we in the Northwest, we get to become rain experts. And usually what that means is not that we learn how to keep the rain out, but that we learn how to live with the rain. And so there's two approaches to staying comfortable when it's raining outside. The first approach is to get a waterproof shoe. Nathan mentioned some challenges with that, but we do believe there's some Gore-Tex shoes out there that are comfortable, that are functional, and they'll keep your feet dry and warm. Unless you're in, standing water, or you're walking across a meadow. Sometimes that doesn't keep you dry, but they do a great job. There's two shoes specifically, one from Brooks called the Ghost and one from New Balance called the 880. Doesn't matter. Just look for GTX. And if you're looking for waterproof, those are great. So if you want to stay dry, it's about $20 more than the non-Gore-Tex version in those shoes. You'll pay a little more, but you'll stay dry. You might sacrifice some fit and some functionality. And that brings me to the second point, which is learning how to live with the moisture. Manage the moisture is what we say. And so what we want to do for most of you, no matter where you live, we want to plan for moisture and heat and plan for that to transfer through your footwear rather than to be worrying about it getting in, because it will get in. And so you have to start with your feet and build out. And the first line of defense is to get a non-cotton sock into play. Grab your socks, grab that 10-pack from Costco that you bought and put it in a different drawer from the socks that you're going to run and walk in. These running and walking socks have a lot of great properties. Some of the natural fibers are great, like wool. Many of you have probably heard of Smart Wool, or there's a company called Belega that employs that fabric, and it's great. It's natural, but it also does a couple things. It wicks moisture. It doesn't load up with moisture. And synthetics like polyester are specifically really good at wicking moisture. So they take moisture, and instead of absorbing it like cotton does, they're hydrophobic. They don't like water. So the water can kind of pass through. It might get to your feet, but it also won't stay there. And the fabric around your feet won't stay wet. And so you can avoid blisters. You'll stay a little warmer and more comfortable. In the hot weather, you'll definitely breathe a little bit better. And in the cold weather, just anytime you can avoid loading up with moisture, you're going to be more comfortable. So the two lines of defense, I think, are keep the water out with Gore-Tex, or manage the elements with a really great pair of socks. And might I say, right now on portlandrunning.com, it's buy 3, get 1 free, plus another 15% off. So there's that for you. Yeah.
There you go. What a nice little plug and transition, Dave. So my last question here, and to kind of wrap up our time with you, let's say you have $50 other than shoes, because we know that we want to get a great pair of shoes. Where am I going to get the most bang for my buck out of those $50 when it comes to investing in like some new running gear for this 12-week challenge? And then I would say answer that same question, but now $100.
All right, I like it. Tiers of spending money at portlandrunning.com. The first one at $50 and less. I just mentioned it. Socks are number one. Socks are an issue because they're expensive. I mean, running socks can be $15 a pair. And so you have to kind of commit to them. They have a shelf life, and they'll last a little longer than your shoes. But I would definitely recommend socks at the 50 and lower price range. You should be able to get into 4, 5, 6 pairs of good running or walking socks. And it's going to change the way your shoe behaves. It's going to make you more comfortable, and it's going to make it easier to go out on the bad days. Another under $50 thing that I think has kept me in business for all these years. I can just fit it into my screen. This is a long object that looks like a stick, and it's called the stick.
It's called a torture device, people. That is a torture device.
Yeah, I can't really demonstrate from here, but this has segmented things on it. There's a couple of different products like this out in the world. It's $35, and what it is essentially is it takes what you would get if you stretched liver massage therapists living with you in your house all the time, and that you did everything every day you could to stay healthy. This kind of replaces some of the stuff that you can't maybe afford, like a massage therapist. It's a massage tool, and I think I can probably show you. I can't show you; it's too weird. But I can do this. It's a massage tool. It's like a rolling pin, and it's designed to use like on the back of your leg at your calf area. You can use it there to stimulate blood circulation, blood flow. You can stimulate active recovery by doing that. And also you can do something after you're done and before you're done. You can use it as a warm-up tool. And afterwards, there's these little things that happen when your muscles are rebuilding. They're called like fascial adhesions. Your muscle kind of starts to bind together. And if you don't take care of those, you get knots like you would in your neck. And this can help you avoid that. It is simply the only reason I don't have shin splints. So I'm 50, who's ever had shin splints, and I did all the way through college. I didn't know any better. I just kept running and icing and running and icing and stretching and icing and running. And then in my 20s, I discovered this, and it's been the only thing I use. It's under $50. It's great. At the $100 price range, I might have to jump up to the not 150 combined, but at the $100 price range, I'll throw one more into the lower price range, and then I'll just go big. How about that? This is the other thing. Now, many of you, it's wintertime, right? Unless you're in Australia. I don't think we have anybody in Australia. So it's wintertime. So you think, I'm fine. It's cold outside. Why would I need a water bottle? Well, I'll tell you. Because water is the single best remedy for speeding recovery and for performing in a more active and more strategic way. If you don't hydrate, then you cannot get from A to B in a healthy way. You just can't do it. Hydration helps you recover. It helps you facilitate electrolytes through your body, so it helps you avoid cramping. It is really the only way to get things done. This is a handheld. It's probably in the $30 range. You just put it on your hand, fill it with 12 ounces of water, and off you go. And you might be saying, well, I'm only going for 30 or 40 minutes. But it's still important to have it and to practice drinking, especially if you think, I'm going to do a 5K, I'm going to do a 10K later, I'm going to see how far I can go on Sunday. These are all things that people naturally do, and to do it the best way possible. I see you hydrating, Aaron. The best way possible is to, carry it with you, because the drinking valves are going to get turned off and you still are going to get thirsty. So let's see the big one. I'm going to sell this pretty hard. This is another massage tool. So you can see that I'm going on this avenue. You get your shoes, you get your socks, you get maybe a training program. Maybe you have stopped watching your neighbor to do what they do, and you're doing your own thing. You still have to do something to maintain your physical health besides just a little toe touch, stretch, and a little, whatever you do to, kind of warm up. And this tool right here is from a company called Theragun. It's called the Theragun Mini. And I'm going to turn it on for effect because I think that is not your camera shaking, folks. That is 2,400 RPMs of massage tool. And you can use this passively at your desk. So many of you are working from home, you're students, or you have your kids at home and you're busier than ever. And everyone in the world's like, man, I can't get out. I want to go out. And you're thinking, I just am at my desk 18 hours a day. So you can use this tool when you're static, when you're just sitting there. You can rub the outside of your leg, which is your IT band. You can work on a place called your TFL, which is kind of this weird little muscle right above your hip. Your piriformis back in the glutes, we mentioned that. Your lower leg, where your calf, your soleus, your Achilles is down there. You can work the tissues around that, and you don't even have to be that good at it, but there's a guide on the website that can show you how to do it. It's $198 normally. I think right now it's $175. Sounds like a lot. It's a shoe or maybe a couple pairs of shoes for some of you. And it is worth it because it will give you an opportunity to do something that Dr. Morse said. It'll give you an opportunity to be successful in the early going so that you can enjoy this lifestyle of fitness and get through the perils of these early injuries and don't come back in 20 years and say, no, I got a knee pain, so I gave up walking or running. These things to maintain your health, the massage tools are, I think, simply the best thing you can do besides your shoe and your sock.
I actually bought my wife one of those Theraguns for our anniversary in June, bought it from Portland Running Company. And it is amazing. We kind of fight over a little bit because it's just such a great way. She was that person at her desk for 18 hours a day. And it was like, that thing was just absolutely amazing. So, Portland Running Company, as Dave said, ships everywhere in the world. This isn't intended to be a commercial for them, but I'm going to sort of turn it into one because I buy almost all my running gear from PRC, and they're just amazing. They give Heart to Start participants 10% off. But as Dave said, right now they're doing this. Let me see if I can share my screen. A 15% off deal. And I think it's on one of those sliders. So maybe you're not on the right slide right now. Nope, that's the free shipping slide. But there's a 15% off deal. So I think, Dave, just go to portlandrunning.com, correct? And folks can take advantage of that deal. Is that like a Black Friday sort of a deal, or how long does that last?
Yeah, that 15% off is going to go through Sunday. And there's other deals coming as well. So it's 15% off. So you don't need your Heart to Start discount now. That'll go on it'll turn on after the sale is done. And so you can get 10% off whenever you want to. But yeah, there's great deals on, Garmin watches. If you decide you want to try to do a little more strategic distance tracking, or you just need a stopwatch. Great deals on Theragun, big discounts, bigger than 15%. And it's really, socks and shoes and all the stuff. If you know what you need, especially, it's easy. And if you don't know, click on there, send us an email or a chat. If we're not online, we'll get back to you as soon as we get back online. We want to help you. We have a lot of great information. And yeah, Nathan said, we're not trying to sell you on stuff. It's just that, we're not just owners. We are also customers of the store. So exactly. We use all the products, and we know a lot of successful athletes, which is what you all are. And we want you to walk and run with the best opportunity for success and return on your investment. So we look forward to chatting with you any way we can, either in person or through the website.
Dave, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all you do for the running community. They opened up the Run Pub in January of this year, and then kind of had to shut it down like 2 months later. But you're still open right now, right? Is it by appointment? Remind us.
So you can come in. We have lots of space. We have some good capacity signs up, so there's a chance that you might have to wait a short amount. But we've been through the weekend already. A pretty busy weekend with no wait times. So you should be just fine and comfortable, lots of masking and sanitizing and spacing inside the shop. And we've been doing this since February, so we've been open the whole time. So we should be able to, if you feel comfortable and safe, we can take care of you and make you feel the same way.
Fantastic.
Tracy mentioned the Saturday thing, and Crazy Days has been sponsoring these waves, and I've noticed a lot of people with masks on kind of looking away and not even waving anymore. They're not saying hello. They're not waving. They're everybody's out in their own little world, and they don't want to even look at you. So I wanted to throw in, Saturday is, we did the same as Tracy. It's called School Spirit Saturday. So when you're going by somebody walking or running, you just need to do a little hand signal so they know that you're human and they're human. You can still see them on the planet. We're still all together. And there's mine for the Oregon Ducks.
Okay, everyone, have a great week. Be active, have fun, find a way to give back. Happy Thanksgiving. It's going to look very different, I think, for everyone. But hopefully you find things you're thankful for. So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again, Dr. Morse and Dave. Good night.